Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
How a Bill Becomes a Law, featuring Mrs. Sanders.
The Sanders Coffee Declaration is a bill intended to make coffee cheaper, more widespread, and increase the quality of coffee beans used in the United States. More coffee beans will be imported from Brazil in order to reduce the cost of importing the coffee, and the coffee beans produced there are the best coffee beans in the world. In order to become more widespread, more Starbucks locations will be built nationwide, and all coffee shops will be required to reduce the prices of their products in order to make coffee more affordable. The bill shall be ratified in the name of Rose Sanders. Mrs. Sanders really loves coffee, so she decided to create a bill that makes coffee more accessible and affordable. She proposed her bill to Representative Pete Aguilar during his Coffee with Your Congressman event. And because Representative Pete Aguilar liked the Sanders Coffee Declaration so much, he proposed the bill to the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi agreed that the bill would be beneficial to the United States, so she decided to continue with making the bill a law by assigning it to a committee in the House of Representatives.
Sanders' Coffee Declaration has reached the Senate, where it will be introduced by a senator, and in our case it's either Kamala Harris or Dianne Feinstein, because those are the senators for our state. And when they present this, they will be recognized by Chuck Schumer, and he's the presiding officer over the Democratic Party. Now, following this, the bill is assigned to the Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry by the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough. Now, there are 20 standing committees in the Senate, and they each have a specific function. And because our bill has to do with, the production and regulation and the coffee trade, it seemed fitting that it goes under this committee, as this committee is responsible for crop trade and production. Now, the committee proportionately represents the majority and minority parties in the Senate, with the Republican Party being the majority, with their leader being Mitch McConnell. Now, the hearings are held in order to determine the legislation on the bill, and they hear from a lot of different groups of people. There are experts, economic analysts, farmers, people who work in the coffee trade, and interest groups both supportive of and against the bill. For example, you might have someone from a big company brand, let's say a Starbucks advocate, saying, "Oh, yeah, I support this bill because it'll lead to higher profits for the company. It'll lead to more job openings." While on the other hand, someone who opposes the bill might say that this threatens the livelihood of American workers and our international trade. Now, once the bill is voted on by the committee and it's reported out, markup legislation is declared, and here the bill is considered for the floor debate and for full House, as well as for amendments to the bill. Now, after this vote, the actual debate occurs, and it ends only upon reaching a majority vote of 51 out of 100 senators. Filibusters can occur here if someone wants to oppose our bill for any reason and want to cause a delay of action in an attempt to rally support against the bill. For example, someone could start debating for several hours about the possibilities of economic backlash of our bill and attempt to add in riders as well to forward their own agenda. Now, the filibusters, if they drag on too long, countermeasures are taken, this being the Senate invoking a cloture, where the debating set to an additional 30-hour set maximum after the cloture was called, before the vote is undeniably called for. After the vote, the bill is sent to a conference committee consisting of members from both houses. The committee collaborates over any differences in the bill between the houses, proposing amendments and editing the wording, and submit the bill back to both houses for a final vote. Now, if the vote comes back as approved from both houses, it will be signed by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and Vice President Mike Pence, and finally sent to the President for consideration. Hopefully he likes coffee.
I hear Kofefi.
So, for How a Bill Becomes Law project, my part was House action. So, when a bill starts in the House, the process begins when a member of the House, for example, let's say Pete Aguilar, introduces a bill by placing it into the hopper. If majority party members seem to take interest in the bill, so in this case the Democratic Party members in the House of Representatives seem to take interest in Pete Aguilar's bill, the majority whip can inform the Speaker of the House, who in this case is Nancy Pelosi, of the bill. The Speaker of the House then assigns it to a committee, who then refers it to a subcommittee. The subcommittee then performs studies, holds hearings, and makes revisions. So they will perform studies by researching where the best quality of coffee beans are made, where is it cheaper to import or export, which states are the largest consumers of coffee, which age groups are the largest consumers of coffee, and then they will hold hearings to create the bill, and during those hearings they'll also make revisions to the bill, so they'll add stuff or they will remove stuff. So this is sort of the rough draft of the bill. After approval, the bill goes to the full committee. The full committee then has a committee hearing to mark up the bill, and more often than not adds a writer to make sure it goes through the legislative process. So during this hearing, this is sort of the final draft of the bill, and so they will add a writer, which is just a sort of unpopular, sort of tad bit of information or tad bit piece of text to make sure that the bill will go through the legislative process. After this, the bill is then reported out to the Significance of Rule Committee and placed on the House calendar for floor debate in the House. And opponents of the bill will debate against it, while proponents will debate for it. So in this case, our proponents would be people like Pete Aguilar, who will debate for the bill, while their most likely other Democratic members will also debate for it. Whereas other members of the opposing parties, like other Republicans or other party members, will debate against it and try to make sure it doesn't go through. And to prevent this, since it is the majority party's bill, in this case the Democratic Party, the Speaker can then act an open rule, which allows any member of the House to offer amendments on the bill, so anyone from both parties can, or enact a closed rule, in which members of only the committee can offer amendments to the bill. So, in our case, most likely than not, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi will probably enact a closed rule because she wants her party's bill to pass through, and since the members of the committee that she elected she is most likely likes, she will probably enact a closed rule so that only they can offer amendments to the bill. After the bill is passed, the bill is then sent to a conference committee comprised of members of both the House and the Senate, who meet out to iron the differences in the bill, which is then sent back to the House and the Senate. After this happens, the full House then votes, and so really this is, actually I go back on my words, this is really the final draft of the bill. So you have rough draft 1, which starts with the subcommittee, then you have rough draft 2, which is with the full committee, and then the final draft is with the conference committee. And after this, so they sort of work out the kinks of the bill, and then they send it back to both the House and the Senate. The full House then votes on the conference committee's version of the bill, and if it passes, the bill is then sent to the President.
Received a call.
My time has come.
Now for presidential action. When a compromise bill reaches the president, there are some actions that the president can take to regulate legislation. If there are no conflicts with the proposal, the president will sign the bill and the coffee declaration will become law. On the other hand, if Donald Trump does not like coffee for some reason and believes that coffee trade improvements are not a priority in his legislative agenda due to his belief of the coffee declaration hindering businesses and the workforce, he could veto or reject the compromise bill that was approved by the full House and Senate. However, Congress has the power of the legislative veto, in which the presidential veto could be overwritten or overruled with a 2/3 majority from both houses of Congress. The actions of the president can be limited if Congress is in session, because the bill will always become law even if President Trump does not sign the coffee bill within 10 days. However, if Congress was adjourned within 10 days of submitting a bill to President Trump, Trump has the ability of the pocket veto, in which the president lets the bill die by not signing or vetoing it.
and pray that I will, but today I am still just a bill.
He signed your bill, now you're a law.